Welcome to Anderson in Focus with CLA, where Anderson comes into clear view. We're Community Lens of Anderson, a grassroots crew digging into what's happening behind the headlines, from budgets and public safety to social justice, civic engagement, and the folks making change happen right here at home. Real talk, real people, real impact. Let's zoom in. All right, we're excited today. This is Kelly, and we are recording our newest podcast today for Community Lens of Anderson. This is Anderson in Focus, and we have some special guests here today. Good news is I'm going to be able to step away to the production board while my good friend Maria Alexander and volunteer for CLA gets to talk about the work she's been doing along with our partners on the Madison County Voter Guide.
Thanks, Kelly. My name is Maria Alexander, and I've been with Community Lens of Anderson since the beginning. One of the things that I've been really excited about is getting to work on the voter guide with Community Lens. This was kind of a passion project that took off and has morphed into something way bigger than we could have even imagined, and I'm really proud of it. Actually, it's one of the things I'm most proud of. It kind of started because, as all problems do, if you complain about something enough times, your friends say, well, why don't you do something about it? And I had done a lot of research, meticulous research on local candidates because I was frustrated not being able to find somebody. I can social media stalk with the rest of them, but after a while I was like, why is nobody putting together some sort of guide with information about these candidates? Because it's impossible to know who you're voting for. And I think I soft launched that with probably 5 or 6 different groups, and nobody said, oh yeah, we do that. And so with Community Lens of Anderson, I brought it up at one point and we're like, well, maybe we can do it. And so Annie Wood-Bell, who works with United Way, was my partner. And we kind of started off, this is our 6th guide that we're releasing this year. We've done some primary guides, we've done a midterm, we've done a general, and it's kind of gotten bigger each time. But we had our roles where I would do all the research and Annie would format it into the guide. And so this year we've actually changed it, and we'll talk about that in a little bit in the future of this podcast episode. But my research was basically we would come up with a brainstorm list of candidates, questions that we would ask for 3 or 4 of the races. So we would maybe pick school board members or city council or mayor and just say, hey, if we're an average everyday citizen who doesn't care about politics, what sorts of questions would we want to know the answers to from those people? And we would come up with, I think we've had at most 6 questions, but we've whittled it down just for how big the guide has gotten, and just said, okay, why don't we send these questions to the candidates? They can write however they feel about those questions and answers, and then we can put it in the guide exactly as they say. So it's a bipartisan thing. We don't just reach out to one side or the other. We've even, talked to libertarian independent people as well, just saying, if you're on the ballot, we want to know what you have to say about these questions. And so we've done that. We've kind of, I will get all the research done. And then the biggest part of it, at least in my experience, because I did not really work on it at all this year, which was lovely, was contacting the candidates over and over again, just to make sure that everybody had gotten a fair shot at answering the questions. We didn't think it was very fair for the integrity of the book if we just sent one email. You can go to the election office and get information requested on candidates. And so that's kind of where we start. But we would reach out once with email, twice with email. We might send a text, a second text, a Facebook message, reach out to, if they're a larger candidate, they might have a campaign website, and we would reach out to them there. And so there are a lot of opportunities that we give candidates to answer questions because we think that's what's fair. And then we put it in exactly as they say, obviously nothing vulgar or crass, but we haven't had that problem with anybody, thank goodness. So that's what my role has been. But this year was really exciting because of our partnership that Community Lens has with United Way. Annie was always able to kind of work on it as part of her job. I just did it as a volunteer, which is a lot of work. But this year, United Way was generous enough to let us have 2 interns who were amazing. We're going to be really sad, I think, whenever they leave because they're awesome guys. And they did all of the research. So Annie and I sat down, did a training with them, kind of said what we had learned from doing the research, and then they went to and then formatted it. Because they're younger interns than the rest of us old people, they were able to help us make it maybe a little bit more palatable for the younger crowd, more bite-sized in certain spots, because I'm honestly a little bit more academic and wordy, if I'm honest with myself. So so Abby and Evan did that, and we're excited to ask them about their roles, responsibilities, thoughts, takeaways. It is our goal, honestly, to spread this format to other communities because it's really manageable. If you do not need to start off as big as we've gotten, our readership has grown each time, but you can really just start off with school board candidates, check, and then just ask the school board candidates or mayor or whatever that race is that you care about, and then start there and see where it grows, because the amount of people every year that we have say, you work on the voter guide, that is so helpful to me. And it's really kind of a humbling thing. So I will go ahead and start off by, do you guys want to do your introductions?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Abby. I'm currently a senior at Ball State University, and I'm a social work student in my senior social work practicum.
Hello, I'm Evan, and much the same as Abby. I'm a social work senior at Ball State, helping out at Heart of Indiana United Way.
I'm going to ask you first, just because I'm curious, what did you say when Annie said, hey guys, I think we're going to have you work on this particular project, this voter guide? What were your initial thoughts, questions, nerves, whatever that was?
Yeah, so for me, when I was in my interview to do the practicum at Heart of Indiana United Way, Annie had mentioned briefly that we might be doing something with a voter guide, and what would I think of that? What's my experience with Canva? And I was like, oh my gosh, you're lying. I'd get to do something some civic engagement, and then also get to design some of it. And so at first I was like, this will be so cool. This will be so exciting. And then I actually dove into it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is really impactful. And so at first I was more just excited to design it. And then the more I got into it, I was like, this is so cool. I'm so excited.
Nice.
Yeah, for me, it was very much oh, that's cool. This is a fun thing I get to do. But at the training with Maria and Annie, it really sunk in oh, wow, this is really cool. Because before this, I wasn't very invested in local politics. So this whole process has been very elucidating, very impactful for me personally, but then also getting to work on this for a whole community was just, it was just a great feeling.
Good. The next question I had for you, what was the best part or memorable moment that you're like, that really was a proud moment for me working on the guides this year?
I would say for me, something really cool was getting to redesign it and then get really good positive feedback about the redesign. And then also just being able to directly talk to candidates. I had several people reach out after saying what I was doing was a really big deal and thank me for it. And it was just very heartwarming and wow, I really am starting to do something that's going to make a difference. And yeah, I'd say that was probably my favorite part.
Nice. I will say one thing when we were working on the guide, it was exciting for us to kind of provide some equity to the campaign process. A lot of times candidates don't have very much money, especially if they're new to the arena of politics. And so having the opportunity to have a fair, equitable platform for everybody was a really cool thing for us, especially with newer candidates. So I can understand that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed speaking with candidates. But I think my favorite part for me was just how collaborative this whole process has been, because I got to work with CLA, I got to work with different community members. My work specifically was focusing on the Muncie voter guide. Mm-hmm. So talking with civically engaged people in Muncie, about how best to do things was really great. And all the feedback was super helpful. And I just really felt, supported and like, yeah, this is going to be a quality guide.
I'll say, Evan, you kind of had probably more of a similar experience that I did, because when we started, nobody knew about the voter guide, especially the first year. Obviously, it's a pioneer year. This year, we used to only do Anderson, and then we slowly have expanded out to Madison County as a whole. And then this is the first year that we've also included Muncie as well. And so what was that experience for you, Evan, reaching out to a community who hadn't had one before? To say, hey, this is what we're working on. I know sometimes people don't know what to expect. They don't know if they should trust you. But like, what was that experience of trying to get some buy-in from a new community? Were people excited about it? What were people's questions that maybe made you think about it?
There was a bit of a barrier there in that, we're new to the scene. Sorry, I'm trying to formulate.
All right. It was a question I sprung on you.
Yeah. But yeah, we're new. So people may have been more wary to engage, which at first was somewhat disheartening, but also I understand that okay, yeah, this is to be expected. But as the process went on, once I was in the second month of it or whatever, then I was getting the feeling people were getting more comfortable, and they're like, okay, this is something legitimate. And all right, here's I know there's this this one particular experience where it was just like, I've talked to one person for a bit, and then she gets to know me, and she's like, oh, okay, I know what you're looking for. And actually this other person would be a more helpful resource for you. So I saw that as a win personally, because it was like, okay, they know me, they trust me enough to send me off to.
Yeah, I think the vetting by friends, just saying, oh, no, you can trust this person. As we've developed the guide, it's been really neat to see candidates say, oh, no, you can trust them. You can talk to them. You can please engage with that. And I think it's helpful not just for the candidates, but then for the community to know oh, no, we're really fair about things. So, yeah, I'm glad it was a good experience, even though it was, hard. It's a steeper road when you're trying to get a visibility and a new identity in a spot. So thanks for letting me spring the question on you. So, Abby, what about you? Were there hard parts or challenging parts for you?
I feel like I definitely had probably an easier time than Evan did, because the voter guide was always kind of established in Madison County. And so I had a really easy time getting in touch with the election office, getting all the information I needed. The thing that I struggled with most would probably just be getting all of the information together and formatting it, and just inserting it took a lot longer than I thought it would. I had done all the research and I was like, okay, I'm totally so prepared to have this done in the next couple of days. And then it took me probably an entire week longer than I thought it would. And so that was difficult, but it was totally worth it. And yeah, I learned so much from it.
Well, and I will say, Abby and Evan, you guys were lucky enough to have the benefit of Annie and I learning hard lessons about not putting restrictions on words as far as word count, because we had some really trouble with margins. Who wants to spend time trying to fiddle with margins? So I think I'm really proud of the guide you guys were able to put forward, but I know part of it's because we failed a lot and learned every year. We made a list of what did we learn from it this year? What could we do better next year? And so you had less trouble than you could have had, if that helps. What things do you think would be exciting for you to change about the voter guide as it evolves in the future? Well,
I know for me, I would like to see more community involvement, more collaboration, because I like collaboration. And of course, there's challenges that come with a bigger team, but I feel like with more community members given their voice, especially where like, oh, who do we want to hear from? What races should we focus on for questions? I think that would be super important, and that would really help the guide out.
Yeah, I know in the past, Community Lens has maybe had like a Post-it note board out at some events just saying, hey, what kind of questions would you? And so we've pulled from some of that, but I love the idea of even having a team that says, okay, this year, what sorts of things do you want to work on? That's really cool. What about you, Abby?
I think it would be super cool to like expand the guide more, like even just
so
now.
More pages.
Yeah, well, yeah, but even just like more like sections, like something that we started doing this year on Heart of Indiana United Way's website is we're trying to break it down a little bit. So you can go to different buttons that'll bring you to different sections. And I think that would be super helpful in the future if we even expanded to like more communities, Delaware County overall and not just Muncie, so that all communities have this resource. That would be super cool. But yeah, just trying to get as much information we can out to community members.
Yeah, I love the addition of doing the buttons and easy links to different things. One of our goals has always been, we didn't ever want somebody to walk into the voter booth and then see something on the ballot they didn't understand or expect. And so I love having the buttons of like, okay, where can I go to early voting? What are the times? Can I go anywhere? Like we have very simple question answers. So like if you have never talked to anybody about voting ever in the past, you can look at this guide and still feel like a rock star going in, like you know what you're doing. I just thought of an idea that I think would be really fun is like a tear out section at the end, like a PDF you could save where you can click on who you want to vote. And so you can print it off or have it saved on your phone. So when you go into the ballot box, you can say, oh, these are the people that I want to. Because when you're looking at it and you're like, okay, I have to pick right now, there's state delegates and there's precinct people, which if you didn't know what that was before, I didn't either. And I'm running for both of them. So I get it now. I think it's really important to have that list saved for yourself. I have people oftentimes, because I've worked on the voter guide, text me, okay, who am I supposed to trust and those kinds of things. So even having some sort of interactive portion for people to say, hey, these are the choices that I made. What choices are you going to want to make? That's kind of a cool, anyway, you can take it or leave it, but that's my idea that just popped in my head. And I would also wanted to say, what do you think is the best part of the voter guide? Like what thing you're like, oh yeah, that was a stellar part.
My favorite part would have to be the Q&As, just because that's what I think makes this guide unique is that we really try our hardest to get candidates' voices out there. But also, I really enjoyed just the information that's packed into the guide, like role descriptions.
Yes.
And like you said about precinct committee people and delegates, those are getting into the weeds a little bit, I feel. So like, and we have like a whole page dedicated to them. So those are my favorite parts.
Nice. Well, and I will also say, like Annie and I, there are times where like, okay, I have to go back and read the voter guide about what that role was, because even though we put it in, there's so much information that sometimes you do need a refresh. It's almost like a little local government guide in itself. So I love that too. What about you, Abby?
For me, I mean, I completely agree. The Q&A section, that's totally the highlight of the guide, because that's kind of something where I don't think you're going to get it anywhere else, where it has all these candidates compiled together asking these specific questions, and it can be really informational and definitely like help me understand the candidates better as well. Other than the Q&A section, kind of connecting to what Evan said, this year I actually put in like a glossary in mine. So I moved all the candidate like the roles that they are. I moved all of their definitions to the back and like a little glossary, and you can go through the guide and click on the roles and it'll take you to the glossary. And so I kind of want to see if that hits or if it doesn't hit, but I really liked it. I thought it was super cool. So I like that too.
Yeah, I will say technology is getting a lot better at helping us link things than we used to be able to do too. So that's kind of a cool thing. I'm just going to say, since you're younger people, If you have a friend who's like, I don't know about voting, I don't know about even like trying to look at local people, what is your pitch to them about not only using the guide, but why they should get engaged?
My pitch has actually developed a lot more since I did this voter guide because I learned so much more about voting locally. But my pitch is always just like, the things that impact you now, like utilities and like the roads and the potholes and that type of thing. It's all changed at the local level. And people win locally by only a few votes. And so your vote really does matter. And then it's also like, it starts local and then people build up and they graduate to higher offices and that type of thing. And so I always just emphasize that, like, if you want to make an impact in your community, it starts here and then you follow that up. But yeah, because I used to not vote really local. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't, kind of like what Maria said before I did this guide, I didn't know what a delegate was. I didn't know what a precinct was. I just had heard the word like maybe once in government class in high school. And so, yeah, I don't know. I try and push for your vote really does matter.
I have to agree. My pitch is pretty similar. But I like to say, because for me personally, I can get overwhelmed by things, and voting is one of those. So I say, hey, you don't need to like research every position. You can pick a few, look at the role descriptions, see, hey, that interests me. Let me look more into that and go for that. Because I think younger people, unless they're, as a personality, more civically minded, they don't see the value. And when I say they, I mean me. Like, this is me growing up, developing. I didn't really see the value, but it's there. And as I, develop as a social worker, as a person, I realized that, yeah, as we've been repeating, it is really important. And
and I would also say at a local level, you oftentimes have more of an opportunity to interact one-on-one with your local people to make your case for what you want to be different. Obviously, you're not going to be able to get on the phone with the president of the United States and say, hey, can you change this? Just no problem. I've got a pothole down the street. Like, that's not a thing that happens. But you can certainly do that with your city council person. You can show up at the meetings and vote that way. For me, it was also always important to look at which candidates were not engaging with the process of informing voters, because I think that speaks volumes. I want to be able to contact people and say, hey, if you can't contact me during the campaign, I don't think I can contact you when you're in the position. And so having those kinds of conversations with people, knowing that you don't have to vote for every single office. I think sometimes people are like, oh, I can't vote for it. Just vote for one thing that you care about. If it's the school board, or if it's, your city council, I don't know, maybe you really care about the coroner's office, whatever that is, those positions are also important for different reasons. And I think the more you grow up and they have life experiences, you can learn why they're important. But definitely, I love that what you said is a lot of people have that same expression. What did you learn in this process about yourself or about the guide, about civics? It'd be pretty broad, I guess.
I don't know. I mean, I learned kind of like what we already touched on. I learned about basically everything. I learned about how important it is to be civically engaged, how important it is to vote local. I learned how informational even just a little guide can be. I mean, it's obviously not little, but it's
59 pages, everybody, and that's actually shorter than it has been. So,
but yeah, it's just something like this can be so helpful, and it's just having I can't think of the word, but just a place where a one-stop shop kind of where you can find anything and everything about the candidates running for office in your area. It's just so helpful, even to have their social media handles, how to contact them. I learned a lot about a bunch of candidates, and even though I'm not voting in Madison County, it's still really cool to be involved in the community and just learning the things that they want and they need. And yeah, I don't know. I loved it though. I learned that I love making the guide.
I love it.
I like answering second because Abby answers the question for me. But so
tricky.
Yeah. But I agree with a lot of what Abby said. But I think another piece that really stood out to me was, and as a Gen Z person, this was like shock, horror, but it really showed me the limitations of the internet. Because sometimes information is hidden or it's behind 3 layers of links and sometimes the easiest thing is just to like call the election office or email someone and talking to a real person. And that, which I'm sure for some listeners is going to be like, well, duh. But for me, that's very new to me. Growing up in a world where you can just Google everything. Turns out you can't Google everything.
I love that. Yeah, 5 gold stars and would put it on a t-shirt. No, I think that was actually really surprising to me whenever I was working on the research of like, I want to be able to just Google, what does somebody think about this? What have they voted on this? What have they shown to be experienced at this? And that's just generally not on the internet. You actually have to have a conversation with somebody and ask those questions. I think it's actually really beautiful if you think about it, because we would rather just have the easy answer. I hated having to call candidates who didn't respond by text sometimes because it felt uncomfortable to me, not because it was uncomfortable for them. And so I think it's really important that we remember, like, it is important to continue to engage, even if it feels out of our comfort zone. Yeah, I love that. Oh, yay. Good job. What other questions? Do you guys have any questions for me about what that was like? Or
I guess my question to you was, how did you find CLA, but more broadly, organization that would give you credibility to post this guide?
So CLA, I was lucky enough to get in early at that. It was actually done at a pitch night. And you show up at enough community events and you see the same faces and you start to trust, like, oh, these people have the same values as me. They want to make sure that people are engaged. They want people to have a voice that don't necessarily have a voice. And for me, honestly, the best things that I've stumbled onto as far as community involvement are because I found the right people to collaborate with. I could not have imagined the collaborations and the groups that I'm a part of now 10 years ago. Like, that just wasn't a thing. And so I'm really grateful that I have friends who care about the same things as I do and trust me, and I trust them. And I know that we're going to do something good together. It will probably be nothing like we initially expect it to be. And then we're just super resilient. Apparently, we haven't given up, even though our text stream would lead you to believe otherwise some days, where we're like, are we still doing this, guys? Can we just go have dinner instead and cry? But I think, I've been lucky enough to pick friends who care about the same things as me, who keep working as hard, and we carry each other when we want to give up. There have been times where each of us has said, oh, guys, I can't today. I can't this week. I can't this month. I can't this year. Can you carry it for a little bit? And so that's been how Community Lens has really developed. That's how other groups that I've been a part of have really developed, is having people who care so much for their community and still can hold it for a little tiny bit while somebody puts down their corner.
That was really touching, Maria. I'm trying to think of a good question. I did not come prepared.
You didn't know I was going to ask you if you wanted to ask a question.
No, I didn't. I wasn't.
like to spring things on people. It's
yeah,
fun.
Apparently. how did you grow your network? How did you start making the connections to really start pushing the voter guide out? Because I feel like now, especially in Madison County, it's so well known because CLA's been doing it for the past several years. How did you establish that respect and just how did you originate pushing it out?
So what I'm hearing is advice for other communities who want to get this going, which I would love to make sure that they have that advice. Set the bar real low. Really low. So pick 1 or 2 races that you're going to do and then just do them really well. Do something that you think is manageable. So maybe I work with education stuff. So I'm going to say school board again as an option. But school board's easy enough. You can go to those school board meetings or wherever those meetings of people are and say hey, I'm doing this guide. This is the first time we're doing it. This is kind of our vision. We want your message to get out. I think if you tell candidates, we are passionate about making sure your message gets out. This isn't for us. This is for all of us. Campaigners, candidates oftentimes forget that their campaign isn't for them. It's for everybody. I know people who hate fundraising and I'm you're not fundraising for yourself. You're fundraising for the values that you're trying to bring for the community. And so when we make that a collaborative process with a community voter guide, you're saying we're trying to get the vision for what community possibilities are there out to the voters. Please help us. And I think when you go in with that kind of humility and that kind of understanding of this is why we're doing it, people are more likely to buy in on it. I also really think it's important to use the networks you do have. Somebody knows somebody who knows somebody, right? And so you can say, hey, I think I saw that you were friends on Facebook. Can you maybe poke them for me because they're not responding to me? So again, some social media stalking does come in handy. The first couple years especially, the amount of times I would just probably irritating, just Facebook message after Facebook message. Hey, this is the only way I'm seemingly to try and get a hold of you. Can you please respond? And that's just because there's so many messages, so many emails everywhere, and it's not getting easier for that. And so if you can get a personal connection with people, great. Show up at those meetings, especially if they're incumbents. That's somebody who's already in office. That's something I know the interns learned this year. Go and ask them there, just say, this is what we're doing. We want to help voters know what is going on moving forward. And so we want your buy-in. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Other things we do want you to know, early voting has already started. I know. See, look, you did the guide and you forgot all about it. It started April 7th. So both Delaware and Madison County have early voting and vote centers on weekdays, some Saturdays. If you look at the voter guide, the dates, times, and places are all there. I know at least in Madison County, you can go to any of the voting locations. I'm not sure about that in Muncie because it's by county, if that's a rule. So check that if you're in Muncie. Evan, do you know?
Yeah, so for Delaware County, this will be the first election with vote centers.
Nice.
So, if you look at the guide, there's a whole page on what vote centers are, and it'll show you all the locations and what the times are. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yay. See, again, it's a lot of information for one person, so that's why it's good to just kind of have all of it there. Take what you need. For Delaware County election office, you can find all that information as well. You can also find them when you look up your voting registration. Always check your voting registration. It's like good civic hygiene, everybody, because sometimes things change. You want to make sure every year that you're still registered to vote where you're registered to vote at. So that's just kind of a good thing that I've learned as an adult human. Election day, the last day for primaries is Tuesday, May 5th. So if you don't end up voting early, you can go on election day to any vote center in your county between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. to vote. For those people who don't know what a primary is, because that's another thing I've had to teach a lot of teenagers lately. Primary, at least how I explain it, is basically you're picking your horse that wants to proceed through to the next election. So you're kind of whittling down the horse field in my brain. That's how I do it. So You can find our voter guides on HIUW website, and we'll have the link in the description, so you can click on it there. CLA also has it on their Facebook page as well as their website, and we also have it on the Heart of Indiana United Way Instagram page. So feel free to look there. Anything else you guys want to say about the voter guide, the experience? I'm getting shaking heads.
Yeah,
now.
no, I don't think so.
So I do want to say I'm so proud of both of you. Honestly, I didn't know how much of a relief it was going to be for me to not have to do the work this year. As I said, I wanted to run for some of the minor office stuff before, work on campaigns. And because of, honestly, the integrity of the voter guide, Annie and I have very strict personal rules for ourselves. We did not allow ourselves to post about candidates. We did not allow ourselves to run or to work on campaigns because we didn't feel like that was there. And so I've been really grateful to have that freedom this time around, to be able to engage at a different level, because I wasn't trying to keep the integrity of the voter guide alive. We really do take it very seriously. So I think that's all I'm going to say. So I don't have a tagline to go out with. So I'll just say, have a great day, everybody. And thank you for listening.